Today's Top 5 News. On November 18th, U.S. President Donald Trump welcomed Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to the White House with great ceremony. As expected, journalists asked questions about the 2018 killing of Jamal Khashoggi by Saudi agents. Trump defended the Crown Prince, saying that bin Salman had known nothing about the incident, a statement that contradicts the assessment of U.S. intelligence agencies. Trump also criticized the reporter who asked about Khashoggi, accusing him of putting the guest in an uncomfortable position, and praised Mohammed bin Salman for doing a great job on human rights. The Crown Prince himself said that hearing about Khashoggi's death had been painful, but insisted that his government had followed all proper investigative procedures. In addition to the Khashoggi case, bin Salman has long faced harsh criticism from human rights groups for cracking down on dissent inside Saudi Arabia. During the meeting, Trump said he received positive signals regarding the prospect of Saudi Arabia normalizing relations with Israel. However, the Crown Prince stressed that even if he wishes to join the Abraham Accords, Israel must first open a path toward establishing a Palestinian state. At the formal luncheon at the White House, Trump announced that U.S.-Saudi military cooperation had been elevated to the level of a major non-NATO ally. This status gives Saudi Arabia military and economic advantages, though it does not oblige the U.S. to provide security guarantees. According to the White House, the two sides signed a strategic defense agreement aimed at strengthening deterrence in the Middle East. The White House also reported that Trump approved future deliveries of F-35 fighter jets and that Saudi Arabia agreed to buy 300 tanks from the United States. Until now, Israel had been the only country in the Middle East with F-35 aircraft. The two countries also signed a joint declaration announcing the completion of negotiations on civilian nuclear energy cooperation. Bin Salman promised to increase Saudi investment in the United States from the previous $600 billion to $1 trillion, though he did not provide details or a timeline.
U.S. and Russian officials are reportedly working on a secret plan covering 4 areas related to peace and security guarantees for Ukraine. According to Axios, the Trump team has been conducting confidential talks with Russian officials on a new proposal aimed at stopping the war. The outlet reports that the plan consists of 28 points. It outlines 4 key areas: peace in Ukraine, security guarantees, security in Europe, and Washington's future relations with both Moscow and Kyiv. U.S. President's Special Envoy, Steve Witkoff, has been working on the document and has discussed it in detail with Russian Presidential Envoy Kirill Dmitriev. Dmitriev visited Miami on October 24-26 and said he held 3 days of talks with Witkoff and other members of Trump's team. The sides also reportedly discussed the next U.S.-Russia prisoner exchange. Axios did not disclose the details of the peace plan or the positions regarding Ukraine's territorial issues.
On Tuesday evening, Israel carried out an airstrike on a densely populated Palestinian refugee camp in Lebanon, killing at least 13 people and injuring several others, according to Lebanese officials. This has been described as one of the deadliest Israeli attacks since the ceasefire went into effect following the end of the war with Hamas. The Israeli military said in a statement that it targeted a Hamas training facility and was acting against Hamas infrastructure in Lebanon. Hamas denied the Israeli claims, calling them completely false and misleading. According to Hamas, the strike hit an open sports field inside the camp where local youth gather. The group stated that there are no military sites in Palestinian refugee camps in Lebanon. The conflict in Lebanon, which escalated after the war in Gaza, has become one of the most devastating in decades, claiming an estimated 4,000 lives. Although the two sides agreed to end the war last November, Israel has continued to conduct near-daily airstrikes in Lebanon during the ceasefire, resulting in hundreds of civilian deaths. Both sides have repeatedly accused each other of violating the terms of the agreement.
U.S. President Donald Trump has lifted the increased tariffs he previously imposed on more than 200 products, including coffee, beef, bananas, and orange juice. According to Reuters, the decision comes amid rising public concern about increasing food prices in the United States. The removal of these tariffs marks a sharp shift in Trump's policy, as he had long insisted that the tariffs he introduced did not contribute to inflation. The president acknowledged that tariffs can, in some cases, lead to higher prices, though he still believes the U.S. has almost no inflation. At the same time, the White House noted that Trump intends to use the revenue collected from the higher tariffs to give every low- and middle-income American $2,000 next year. According to Consumer Price Index data, the overall cost of food consumed by Americans rose 2.7% in September.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky tries to revive diplomatic efforts with Russia to end the war. As this process continues, it's important to feel consistent support behind you, Zelensky said at a press conference in Madrid alongside the Spanish Prime Minister. He later said that he would discuss ways to secure a just peace for Ukraine with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Turkey previously hosted negotiations between Ukrainian and Russian representatives in the spring of 2022 and again earlier this year. However, those meetings did not bring an end to the fighting. I think the meeting will allow for a meaningful discussion. We've received some positions and signals from the United States. We'll see tomorrow, Zelensky said, without giving further details.
According to a new report published by the non-governmental organization Oil Change International, 25 countries supplied oil to Israel during the war in the Gaza Strip. The organization condemns this as support that fuels genocide and worsens the climate crisis. The report, released during the COP30 summit in Brazil, states that between November 2023 and October 2025, 70% of the crude oil shipped to Israel came from Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan. Russia, Greece, and the United States are listed among the leading exporters of refined petroleum products to Israel. The United States is also the only country supplying JP-8 military aviation fuel to Tel Aviv. Oil Change International argues that these countries continued their oil shipments despite being fully aware of Israel's actions in Gaza. For this reason, the organization calls for a global phase-out of fossil fuels and says it is documenting this involvement to ensure accountability. During the research period, 323 shipments of crude oil and refined products were identified, totaling 21.2 million tons. That is all the news we intended to share for today. Stay safe.